April meeting of the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission. I'm going to call meeting to order. And before we get started, first of all, I am sitting in this seat for the first time. Mayor Glover is not here today. He's the chair, so I thought I would have a while to sit and observe him, but he didn't give me that opportunity before he threw me into the seat. So bear with me today as I go through the agenda. I'm a new commission member, and so I sat here as a staff member representing the city manager at one time. That was a little over 10 years ago, but now back as an elected person, so glad to be here. Bob asked me if I would just introduce myself, and I'm going to ask the new members of the commission to introduce themselves. Just something, I don't know if it was interesting. It's interesting to me about my participation here, because I consider myself kind of a regional person. I'm born and raised in Portsmouth. I worked in Chesapeake for 26 years. I lived in Norfolk for 10 years. I lived in Suffolk for 2 years. And now I've been in Hampton for 20 years. So I've been around the region a few times. And so it's good to have lived and worked and, and got to know people all over the Hampton Roads region. So it's been a big benefit for me. So with that, I'm going to move around the table. I think Councilmember King, you might be the next newest member. If you will introduce yourself and tell us something special about you.
Something special. Hello, my name is Pat King, and I'm a new member of Chesapeake City Council. I'm originally from Norfolk, born and raised, but I've been in Chesapeake for the last almost 35 years. It's a place I now call home. I'm a former educator, and I'm a physician. I've been practicing for about 35 years, and I'm so happy to join you guys here today. I'm not going to tell you what kind of physician. I'm not. I am a psychiatrist.
How you doing? My name is Lou Ward. I'm the Vice Mayor of City of Suffolk, surprising City of Suffolk. I do a media newspaper for the last 30 years called Hampton, Suffolk, Hampton. I've been doing that for a while. I used to sit over there. Now I'm sitting here. So I was raised in Brooklyn, New York. So I've been here like 30 years. Thank you.
Councilman Long.
Hello, everyone. My name is Clay Long.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Clay Long. I serve on City News City Council.
So just giving everybody that maybe it's their first meeting a chance to introduce themselves. No, I think that we caught them last month, right? Thank you. Coming on,
Around the
a
table.
couple new members here from Norfolk.
Good afternoon, Carlos Clanton. I too, 20 years ago, sat on the other side when I was director of the chamber. Interesting fact here for the city of Norfolk, Ward 7. My interesting fact is I'm also a professional opera singer.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeremy McGee. I also am on Norfolk City Council representing Super Ward 6. And prior to that, I served on the Planning Commission, our Architectural Review Board, Civic League President. By day, I'm a small business owner and entrepreneur and look forward to working with these two.
They used to make me sing the national anthem, but no.
I heard him sing the national anthem before too. Good. Well, thank you all for being here. So we'll move on the agenda, but just as a quick reminder, when you're speaking, please turn on your microphone. And if you are making a motion and a second, if you would turn your microphone on so it's properly recorded. So with that, I'm going to move on to the agenda and ask for approval of today's agenda. Need a motion and a second.
Second. Second.
All right, there's a motion to second. Is there any discussion or additions to the agenda? All right, there being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed have the same right? All right, the agenda is approved. All right, moving on to item 3, public comments. I don't think we had any comments that were submitted prior to the meeting. Is that true?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. I would ask if there's anyone in the audience who would like to address the commission today. Seeing none, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, all right, well, that's good. So we'll close public comment and move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is the executive director's report. So, Mr. Crane.
Yes, thank you, sir. Commission members, included in your agenda is my monthly executive director's report. As always, please contact me with any questions or comments you might have. We try to do a high-level overview of some of the activities happening here at the PDC. Mr. Chairman, I would like to have a couple of items addressed with the help of our staff team under my director's report today. First, I'd like to ask our Principal Emergency Management Coordinator, Mr. John Sadler, to come to the podium. And I know John has a pretty exciting announcement and recognition that he would like to make today.
Thank you, Bob. Good afternoon. I am very excited to share some great news with the commission here that one of our own, Tammy Summer, has recently been honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award from the International Association of Emergency Management. This is a truly prestigious award bestowed on individuals who give a significant and lasting impact on the emergency management community. Through her commitment with the City of Hampton, CNU, the private sector, and here at the PDC, Tammy's long list of accomplishments and achievements and dedication to public safety and preparedness has truly made this region more safe. We are incredibly proud of Tammy and very grateful to have her on our team. Would the commission please join me in congratulating Tammy on this well-deserved honor.
Tammy, please stand for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. The second item we thought was a very timely item. I think you're all aware that we are involved with a pretty comprehensive public education program in our regional community regarding recycling. And with the stage that we're at in that effort, we thought it'd be good to have Katie Collifer, our principal who runs our environmental education program at the PDC, give you a brief overview and update on some of the work that we're doing with your communities. So Katie?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Bob said a really quick update, so I put together 28 short slides, and I'm going to fly through them, I promise. But just wanted to give you a quick overview and update where we are on progress with our EPA Recycling Education and Outreach Grant. So we received $1.96 million through the EPA REO grant. That we are one of 25 recipients nationwide, one of just 3 in our EPA Region 3, and the only one that was in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So, accomplishment in and of itself just to get the grant. And I'll tell you a little bit about the work we're doing. So the project goals overall, we want to reduce municipal waste generation, increase knowledge of local recycling programs and how residents participate in those programs. And as part of that, decrease recycling contamination rates. We know that's something that we've all heard about a lot over the years. And in doing so, with our public education efforts, increasing confidence in our local recycling and waste management programs. So lofty goals, but I'll tell you a little bit about how we hope to get there and move the needle. So this is just a quick timeline. This is a 3-year grant. We are coming up to the end of year 1. So we are about to embark on, the second and third phase, and we'll be concluding by May 2027. So overall, how we hope to achieve the goals, I kind of broke it up into just like research and education. So this is very much a research-based public education program. When we're talking about behavior change, you have to rely on research in order to move the needle and get people to respond and change behavior. And so we're starting out with a regional survey, recycling confidence survey, to gauge current attitudes, behaviors, participation, knowledge of local recycling programs, what people could use to participate in those programs better, and how they assess themselves in the current climate. We felt like this was some funding we're doing slightly outside of the EPA grant because it doesn't allow for that type of research, but we felt it was really important to get a benchmark at the beginning of the project period, and we'll repeat this same survey at year 3 in order to really gauge, how we've been able to change those perceptions. We'll be doing some focus groups as well to get, input from people in a qualitative setting, and also some message testing when we get to that phase of the campaign. We're also doing route level recycling audits and targeted behavior change education. I'll get into the little more details of that in just a minute. But this is really exciting work that we get to do, where we really get to deliver education right to people's doors, right on the curb where they put their carts on recycling collection day, for those curbside programs, and have an impact there to deliver that important information. And then education that comes along with it and will be as a result of the research and what we learn. But we've already deployed some web-based recycling and disposal tools. I'll show you a snippet of what those look like. And then in year 2 and 3 especially, we'll be doing a full-scale public education program with direct mail, cart stickers, convenience center signage, all with a streamlined, consistent message across the region about what is acceptable in recycling programs, focusing on what's acceptable no matter where you live and not so much the nuances of the individual community programs, but giving people the tools and access to get those specifics for their neighborhoods. So this advertising and public relations, widespread to meet people where they are. Of course, in community engagement along the way. So the highlighted areas here are kind of where we have been and where we are right now. And I'll just give you a quick overview of that. I mentioned the survey. We launched that March 12th. We are finalizing the collection of that, and it was a multimodal survey to all of Hampton Roads where there was a municipal recycling program in place, both convenience center or curbside access. So that is, we've also done some local data collection with your communities to find out, where we are in terms of tonnage and participation rates. Our regional recycling rate goes into that. And then we'll be doing some focus groups over the summer. So this is where it gets interesting, and what we're currently working on right now in some of our communities is Feet on the Street program. This is a program from the Recycling Partnership, a national nonprofit who has done this all over the United States with amazing results. This, in terms of recycling education, is like the gold standard, that communities would love to be able to do this because it touches people right there at their doorstep with the information that they need in order to be able to be active and, good participants in their local programs and understand what is accepted. We're doing this in over 32 households in 6 communities in Hampton Roads. And this is an 8-week program. So we started March 31st, and it runs for 8 weeks, which is 4 cycles of recycling. So the neighborhoods that are a part of this program will have that interaction with us potentially for 4 times during this period. How it works. So in James City County, Newport News, Norfolk, Suffolk, Virginia Beach, and York County, we are, first we started with some measurement of select recycling routes. So we actually went to the MRF when the truck came in with the specific, for that specific route. On the tipping floor, we selected a sample, a random sample, and we sorted those commodities by type, and we determined what the current contamination rate was. And we're going to do that same, we're going to replicate that same model at the end of the 8-week period to really gauge, how we've had an impact on contamination for those specific routes. We sent mailers out to each household that was involved in the program in advance of the cart tagging starting. So let them know again that here's, thank you for recycling. Here's information about what's accepted in our local program. It was specific to the locality, not a broad general message. So it told them exactly what their program accepts, and also things to avoid putting in there, like, bagged recyclables, hazardous waste, batteries, flammable items. And then we're in the engagement period now. So after we've informed them with the postcards, we have trained crews who go out ahead of the trucks on collection day in these neighborhoods, and they open the cart lid and they look on top for any contamination. They don't dig in the cart. They don't touch any of the materials inside. It's simply looking on top to see if there's contamination present and what it is. That's all logged through an app that we get data in the background. And we can determine, how many carts on their route have contamination. What is the contamination? Is it plastic bags? Are they putting, tanglers? Are they using it as a second trash can? So this is all amazing data that we've never had access to for our local programs before. So if there's contamination present, the first time they just get a warning tag. It's very polite. It says, oops, thanks for recycling. Here's a reminder of what's accepted. Please don't put these items, whatever the specific thing is, please keep those out next time. If there's a follow-up instance of contamination, well, there is some enforcement with this program. So that is where the behavior change really comes into play because we're holding people accountable for learning the information and participating in the proper way. And so the second instance, they will get a rejection tag. It's again a very polite tag with a reminder about what's accepted. And also it tells them, just to simply remove those items and their cart will be collected on the next scheduled collection cycle. So all of this gives us great data, information sharing. We know the frequency of contamination. We know participation rates, how many households are actually setting out their carts on collection day, and we know the top contaminants. So we can use all that data to target our public education efforts. This is just a quick look at some of the materials that were sent out and the tags that are being put on the carts as we survey the neighborhoods involved in the program. So next up, the web-based tools I mentioned. So these have already been deployed in December. We were able to get these tools up and running. A few of our communities had these already, James City County and the city of Norfolk. But this is a online database, basically, where it's specific to your community, and you can look up not just recycling, but also waste disposal information for any material that you can think of. So if you want to get rid of a mattress, you type in mattress, and it gives you the information for your community, how to dispose of it safely and properly. So there's a big recycling education element here, but also all types of waste disposal that residents are faced with. And we want to streamline that access across the region. So the grant has given us the ability through funding to make this tool available to all of our member communities as a education piece, so that all of our residents can have access to the same disposal information and make the right choices. There's also a lot of data behind the scenes that we get from this. We know what people are looking up, like where the confusion points are. Like, I don't know what to do with my pizza boxes or yard waste or plastic clamshells, or like the number one item people are confused about when it comes to recycling. And we know that the product labeling is confusing, and that's what drives a lot of that. They look on the bottom of a water bottle like this, and they see a symbol with a 1, and the plastic clamshell that the strawberries come in has the same symbol. So, of course, it's recyclable. Yes, it is, but it's not accepted in our local program. So that's where the education comes in. So the tools, encourage you to take a look when you have time, but I'll just give you a quick snippet. This is on our Ask HR Green website. I come to the tool, I select my community. I think here I selected Suffolk. I want to look up a pizza box. It gives me some options here. I pick a greasy one. We know that there's messaging about greasy pizza boxes. So here it is. Oh, in Suffolk, I need to put this in the green trash can and put it out on collection day. So it's also, going the wrong way. It's also, really user friendly on your phone. You don't have to download a separate app. This is just a piece of code we put on our website, and all of our communities can employ this and deploy it on your local websites as well. And some of you have it. I'll go through some of those in a minute. The other part of these tools is this interactive game that's great for outreach with our youth when we go to do classroom visits, where teachers can just use this in the classroom. It's a sorting game for waste and recycling, shows all these different streams. It gives you step through stages of different materials. You drag it to the appropriate place. If it doesn't go there, it bounces off. If it does go there, you get stars and you did the right thing. You step through, in each phase, you get to build your own little public park. You'll notice the Hampton Road symbols in the background. It was made custom for our region to kind of reflect, the things that make us unique. And then at the end, you get this great certificate of achievement. You can share that you are, a waste wizard, you know how to recycle right, and what proper disposal looks like for where you live. So the city of Suffolk has already put this up on their website since we got the grant. City of Chesapeake has deployed this on that website, James City County, York County, Williamsburg, Norfolk. So this is a great tool. And if we haven't already, we're in the process of working with your IT staff to get this deployed throughout and do any testing necessary. So this is just a great new resource that we have now available. Tried to run through that as quickly as I could. But I just wanted to put this slide up here to just remind, I have a team of two, myself and Rebecca Eastep, who work on these programs. None of this would happen if it weren't for your staff that have put in hours and hours of work to get these, elements of this grant up and running, to provide input on the application process, to give us the assurance that if we got the funding, we would be able to do what we said we were going to do. So I just want to thank you, and if you could pass that along as well. Just the Feet on the Street program has been a year in the making. So there's been hours and hours of planning, a lot of, troubleshooting and putting a complex puzzle together in order to make that happen, in 32,000 households across the region. And then I just wanted to end on this. So I talked a lot about recycling, and that is important, now and in the future. We also know that that's a moving target, and recycling programs are going to continue to change, not just in Hampton Roads, but across the nation. And so we feel really confident that, doing this outreach and building awareness about our local waste management programs and how things are processed and why things are the way they are, it's just going to help build that public confidence as we navigate to what's next. And, a big focus of this grant, that's Start Smart, Recycle Right. The Start Smart part of that is the waste reduction and the prevention strategies that we help to, deliver to that message to the public as well. So we know recycling is not the end goal. It's somewhere in the middle. We would rather be up at the top where we're preventing the waste from, becoming waste in the first place. So that's, looking at single-use plastics, and, removing those as much as we can, and our habits as consumers, and how do we reduce, our, reliance on these systems in the first place, with the end goal of keeping as much as we can out of our local landfills. So I'm sorry that was a lot, and hopefully didn't take too much of your time, but if you do have any questions, I would be happy to entertain them. And if you received a recycling cart tag, sorry. But I know you can do better, and we can talk afterwards.
Councilwoman
Thanks.
Ritter.
I'll be really brief. Thank you, Katie. That was really informative. I'd just like to ask Mr. Crum, I'm sure most of the localities are SIPSA members. So in plenty of time before the use agreements come before the localities, I'd appreciate this body getting some sort of briefing on proposals, what we may be facing, not for a opportunity for debate, but I think it would be great if everybody hears the same story in more than enough time to evaluate it as the use and support agreements come forward. So if you can work that somehow into your agenda for the next few months, that would be, I'd appreciate it. I don't know if anybody else would.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think it's an excellent suggestion. I think as many as you are aware, SIPSA is embarking on a pathway to a really exciting technology. And it's going to take a lot of collaboration with a lot of the partners here as localities on the south side. But good information for everybody to know, including our friends on the peninsula. So Ms. Ritter, I'll be happy to work with SIPSA management on that.
Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Katie. So there's a freeze on the grants to the EPA in the state of Virginia. Is that going to impact your plans and your goals? And also, there's been a 65% decrease in the budget to the EPA from a federal level. How is that going to impact our plans and goals?
So at the moment, we are funded, and there was some initial, when the freeze was initially announced, we were on hold, but we're, made aware after the fact that that our program was still in play at the moment. So I think that there is always some uncertainty right now with what the future may hold, but at this time, this particular program has been given the green light to proceed. And Bob may have more background there on that, because I know a number of other programs are impacted as well.
So as you're all doing as local governments, we are tracking on a weekly basis and information as it comes out and changes and evolves from DC regarding federal grant programs. This is one of them, as Katie says, so far so good. You know, we've been told to continue to proceed, but we just had a meeting with our Personnel and Budget Committee this morning. And, you know, as we look at revenue streams across the organization, this is something that we're paying very close attention to, and we'll need to continue to brief you on, particularly as we move closer to the start of the federal fiscal year. It starts on October 1. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Katie?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank Katie and Rebecca and frankly, your staff teams. Katie did some training for the feet on the ground, and she had the 757 room full of your local staff, your local volunteers. You know, she's quarterbacking this. Your staff are really engaged, and we very much appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I should have thought of this earlier, but I know we have a couple of local elected officials that are in the audience as well that visited with us today to watch a couple of our presentations. Could I ask if they might introduce themselves if they're in the audience, if you're a local elected official? Yes.
I'm John Rector. I represent the Suffolk Borough from the city of Suffolk.
Thank you.
I'm Jeannie Hubbard. I'm on City Council of the Coast.
Fantastic. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, back to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, and thank you all for being here today. Next item on the agenda, item 5, is a report from the Community Advisory Committee. So, Quan McLaurin.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Before I begin, I'd like to recognize and thank Mr. Mark Gadoga-Gachowski for his years of service to the Community Advisory Committee as our former chair and just a dedicated CAC member and community member. We greatly appreciate just your years of service and your commitment. On April 10th, the CAC met at Nauticus and were provided a presentation from the Nauticus staff on the advancements happening at that facility, as well as with the new cruise terminal that has opened in our region. We also were briefed by our partners at HRT with Ray Amoroso and the Elizabeth River Trail Foundation, and we had some great conversations surrounding connectivity in our region, and some of the benefits discussed in regards to that connectivity included attracting professionals to our region to help stem out migration, improved quality of life for our community members, as well as improved economic and health opportunities and outcomes for our community members. CAC members also discussed ways that they can directly support HRT and better connectivity for our region, and we'll continue to flesh out different ideas and what that looks like moving forward. And then lastly, I'd just like to recognize some of our CAC members who are here and present. Thank you so much for attending and being actively engaged, including our new Vice Chair, Sharon Anderson. So thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Quan. Could we ask the advisory committee members to stand up? I'm not sure how many were out there when you recognize them, but please stand. Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Right.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
if I might offer a personal message. For the last 4 years, I've served as a member of the Community Advisory Committee, and it has been my honor and privilege to serve as your chair. You appointed me, along with the HRTPO, to serve in that capacity. I will be attending future meetings in my former capacity as a citizen activist in the region, and I wish my successors on the committee the greatest success. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. There were 6 items in the consent agenda which were included in your package. So I'd call for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed have the same right? All right, thank you. Consent agenda is approved as presented. Okay. Item 7 on our agenda is potential implications of the changing federal priorities to the Hampton Roads economy, and with Ms. Nikki Johnson.
Yes, so many of you have had Nikki come out to address your city councils or boards of supervisors. Ms. Johnson is our regional economist here at the HRPDC, and we thought this would be a very timely briefing for the commission to hear. So Nikki, over to you.
Thank you. All right, good afternoon. Nikki Johnson, I'm a regional economist here at the PDC. So to say that there have been some changes in federal policy over the last few months would be an understatement. But while a lot of this is still in flux, I'm here today just to provide you a brief overview of the potential exposure of our regional economy to these federal policy shifts. So one of the main priorities of the incoming administration has been a reduction of federal employees. At the start of the administration, I think DOG's initial stated goal was to reduce the federal workforce by about 75%. If we look at our U.S. federal employment, you can see that approximately 41.2% of all employees are uniformed personnel, whether active duty or reserve. Another 45% are civilian employees, and then the remaining 13.7% is government enterprise workers. These are self-financing agencies like the United States Postal Service, which makes up the largest portion of government enterprise workers. But you can see here that if you were to reduce the federal workforce by 75%, you would have to cut uniform personnel because it makes up such a large share. But if we just focus on the 2.3 million federal civilian employees and we look at where they work, this is by major branch, you can see that more than 1 in 3 work in defense. If we add on Veterans Affairs and Homeland Security, which includes TSA agents that work at all the airports, so then we're at more than 2/3 of all federal civilian employees are tied to defense-related industries. So it's a huge portion of our federal civilian workforce. That other executive agencies at the top, that's everything from NASA to HUD, Small Business Association, anything that's not included in the breakout that you see here. Federal workforce is spread out throughout the country, but we know that here in the region, it is a high concentration. So 1/5 of all federal civilian employees are concentrated in Virginia, Maryland, and DC. So if you look at our Virginia's federal civilian workforce by major agency, you can see that more than 2/3 are tied to defense. So that's actually twice the national average. We have another 12, nearly 2,000 in Veterans Affairs and Homeland Security. For Hampton Roads, there's a little bit more than 51,000 federal civilian workers. We are the 37th largest metro area in terms of population, but we have the 3rd highest number of federal civilian employees, behind just Washington, D.C. and New York. We don't have this data at the agency level, but I think we can all guess with our military presence that we likely have even higher share, or a share that's in line with what we see at the state level in terms of defense related civilian employment. Now, when we think about what the potential impact would be of cuts to the federal workforce, we want to consider the share of total employment. So while Hampton Roads has the third highest total number of federal civilian employees, the federal civilian employment as a share of all jobs within the region is about 5.3%. So that ranks us 17th among all MSAs. And so even a place like Washington, D.C., which has more than 300,000 federal civilian employees, that's still less than 10% of their total workforce. And so what you're going to see is if the cuts to the federal workforce are across the board, we're going to see smaller communities that have a higher share of federal civilian employment see a greater impact. But it's also important to consider compensation when we think about federal civilian cuts, because the average compensation of a federal civilian worker is more than 2 times that of the average private sector worker. And this isn't pay differences necessarily. Most of this can be accounted for in education levels. Federal civilian workers tend to be more skilled, have higher rates of education, which is why you're going to see a higher average pay within that group. But what this means is that for every federal civilian job that we cut, you would have to create 2 new private sector jobs to maintain the same level of total compensation within the region. Now, the federal workforce cuts are part of a larger goal to reduce federal spending. We know that federal debt has ballooned significantly over the last 2 decades, and most economists have made the argument that it's not that big of an issue. They are not that concerned because interest rates are historically low, and so is inflation. But that is no longer the case, right? Interest rates have surged, inflation is higher, and so that means that the interest that we pay on that debt has ballooned, and so has our deficit in turn. So if we look at a breakdown of federal spending, you see that the dark blue boxes over here on the right, that is all mandatory spending. So that is on autopilot. Congress, in order to change that spending, they would need to change the law associated with those entitlement programs. That accounts for 60.9% of all federal spending. Now the 28.3%, those 2 light blue boxes on the other side, that's our discretionary. Congress appropriates that money for spending every year. And so that's non-defense and then defense spending accounts. But now the interest payments, which is that beige box on the bottom, you see that has ballooned to about 10.8% of all federal spending. And that's really what has weighed on the deficit over time. We know that federal funding flows to our region in a lot of different ways, whether it's grants or contracts. We have government transfers directly to households and individuals. So there's a lot of different funding flows. And I'm not going to go into all of those and all the recent changes. We'd be here forever. But one of the things I want to highlight is, of course, to local budgets. Local governments receive either federal direct or pass-through aid. And we see the pink purplish color that's on the top. That's the federal aid as a share of total local government revenues. So we did see that increase during the COVID era. In 2019, federal aid accounted for about 7% of total local government revenues. As of 2023, we're about 11%. But as those COVID era stimulus and other programs move out, we expect to see that decline again. Another big source of federal funding to our region, of course, is contracts. And the largest is in DoD. And so here we see that among all metro areas, we rank 5th in terms of DoD contract spending. We have one of the highest shares within the country. Now, we've seen a lot of changes in federal trade within the last just few weeks. And the scale and the scope of the change in federal trade policy is likely to have an impact on our port. So just to give you an idea of how much import and export is coming through the Port of Virginia and the top countries, right? So the top import country through the port is China, and it's also the 2nd largest export country in terms of value. We see that's followed by Germany and then some India, and then rest of your European nation. So if we think about how this is going to affect port values, we would need to understand where these tariffs are going to land, and a lot of that is still in question. We also know that there's been a 90-day pause, there's been carve-outs for sectoral tariffs, so there's still some question on how this will all land out. But here you see imports by top commodity. The nuclear reactor boiler, that's machinery parts, right? Those have not necessarily had special carve-outs. We know that the administration has said that they want to do additional tariffs on pharmaceutical products. We need to remember what a tariff is, right? It's a tax on the importing entity. So if Mattress Firm imports a mattress from, let's say, China, right, to sell into their store, they are paying the tariff, that tax, to the federal government. It is then up to Mattress Firm if they pass on that price to consumers or they eat it out of their profit margins, right? And all of that depends on the elasticity. How responsive is demand to that change in price? With the scale and scope of some of these tariffs, we might just see products get kind of left out altogether just because it doesn't make economic sense to sell. But with the shift in trade policy, we have seen an effect. The scale and the size of these tariffs have weighed on consumer sentiment. In April, consumer sentiment fell to its second lowest level in history. The last time we saw it this low was during the inflation shock in 2022. The economic impact of these major changes in tariffs, it's still in question. We're not exactly sure how this is going to all play out, but we do know that the consensus is pointing to inflation and slower growth. And so this is the consensus forecast for the economic outlook for blue chip economists for their forecast. And so they're pointing to slower growth and higher inflation. And this is what's known as stagflation, which makes it a lot harder for the Fed to fight either of those if they're trying to combat both at the same time. So what does all of this mean? A lot of uncertainty ahead, which is actually the summary of my forecast back in early January. We were anticipating a lot of uncertainty, and that's still the case, even more so now. We know that no matter how these policies shift the economy, we know that the current level of uncertainty will most likely slow business investment and consumer spending as we wait for all these things to play out. But the core economic indicators, the core data, is still healthy, but it's just significantly lagged. So we don't have employment or GDP, anything to reflect any of the changes, even since March. So it's going to take some time before we see a full effect within the region. We definitely are more vulnerable than other areas of the country, but it all depends on where the spending cuts, where the workforce cuts are focused at the end of the day. If you have any questions, let me know.
So, questions for Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask real quick, Nikki, on the slide that you had that showed the import commodities that had nuclear reactors, machinery, and yeah, right there. Do you happen to know what the source of that steel? Is it all being imported from other countries, or is that domestic?
So this is imports. Now, what country that's coming from, I'd have to dig more into the data, but I can definitely get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Johnson? Mr. Carter.
Yes, is this particular slide deck available so we can kind of consume this a little bit more?
Absolutely. We post on our website after every meeting, but we can also distribute this to commission members as well. Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask while we have everybody convened, any reactions, anything surprise you? Any big takeaways? As Nikki said, this is very much in flux. But we thought this was good information to begin to bring forward to you. And I'm just interested in any key high-level observations or takeaways, anybody?
Dickie, did you do any information or any research on agricultural products, especially exports? Because we're a large farming community in the western Tidewater area, and especially soybeans and cotton and peanuts.
Yes, that is some data I dug into. I wasn't able to get the best understanding of how current trade policies are going to affect that, just because they are ever evolving. So I didn't want to include it, but I can definitely provide you some of those numbers so that we can understand that.
Okay. Other questions or comments? All right, I think that's it. Here's somebody, Johnny. All right, so next item on the agenda, item 8, is a update from the General Assembly from Mr. Crum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the PowerPoint's pulled up, I'd like to just introduce this with the commission members by saying that you will recall that on an annual basis, the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission and Transportation Planning Organization jointly approve and adopt the regional legislative agenda. It's intended to represent a unanimous consensus around important issues that we will advocate for at the Virginia General Assembly and with our federal partners, all items that would be beneficial for our region. Well, today, my summary will be very high level. As you all know, to go through a General Assembly session, there's just so much that one could dive into, but I've attempted to identify 8 or 9 major items that evolved through the General Assembly, either items that were approved or items that not make it through that related to your regional legislative agenda. So we'll try to move through this quickly, but the first item is not good news, and that involves state funding for our own organization, the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission. You've heard me talk about this a number of times. As we sit here today, we receive about $190,000 of state funding from the Commonwealth of Virginia. That is $200,000 less than we received in 1998. As you all know, many business people around the table, that is not a business platform that is going to be successful. We're very fortunate and appreciative this year. We had Senator Christy Newcraig on the Senate side, Delegate Cliff Hayes on the House side. Both submitted for us budget amendments to double the amount of funding that we would receive. We were very optimistic, but at the end, it did not make it through. So not good news, but something we're going to have to, again, take another run at this coming year. Energy. When I was before you during session, I talked about House Bill 2126. And we talked about this as an area, a bill of concern. Because there were going to be some requirements coming out of this bill that frankly would have put regions perhaps in local land use issues, which is a place, as we all agree, we don't belong as a region. House Bill 2126 would have established a Virginia Energy Facility Review Board, and it would have set requirements for this board, Planning District Commissions, to develop a regional energy plan, which high level wasn't concerning. What was concerning was that plan would have had to been adopted with limited funding by July 2026. And it would have had to address energy generation, storage, and use that furthers the Commonwealth's energy goals. As you all know, dealing with local land use, siting of some of these facilities is a significant local land use issue. And there were a lot of concerns that this would have put these regional plans inside local zoning and permitting for energy facilities. So we talked about it here. We talked about why that was going to be a concern and why we would oppose this bill. It did not advance. It was left in the House and Labor and Commerce Committee. So we'll have to keep an eye on that for next year, but it did not advance this General Assembly session. Another thing we talked a lot about, and for the city of Norfolk, for the city of Virginia Beach, for the city of Hampton now, and our partners on the peninsula, many of you have proceeded with Army Corps studies to take a look systematically at what your project needs are to be able to do flood prevention projects. While there's a lot of federal money available to implement those plans and to build those projects, unfortunately, you need a local non-federal match to unlock that money. And when the requirements are a 35% local match to be required to unlock federal funding, in the case of Norfolk, and the city manager can speak to this, that would be a $900 million local match for you to be able to build your $2.8 billion project. Ms. Bunning, Mr. Chairman, your city manager has done a good job of bringing up that when you look at these studies on the peninsula, these are smaller localities, population size. It's going to be really difficult for them to come up with that 35% non-federal match. So we ask in our regional legislative agenda, and I know for Norfolk, this was a huge priority for you. We asked for the state to consider some program where the Commonwealth of Virginia would help us with the non-federal share. Why is that important? As you all know, in Hampton Roads, we are home to the second highest number of military personnel in the country. In Hampton Roads, we're home to the Port of Virginia, which drives the entire economy for the Commonwealth of Virginia, as well as the Eastern United States. We contain these really important facilities that are of a statewide and national interest. And if the state can help us bring this federal money to bear on these projects, it's an ROI for not only Hampton Roads, but the entire region. There was some advancement. Delegate Hernandez and Delegate Fagans from Norfolk and Virginia Beach were able to get past House Joint Resolution 434. HJ 434 authorizes a 3-year study by JLARC. Not what we were looking for. We weren't looking for a study, but it's a bit of the hand that we've been dealt. JLARC is charged to create a methodology and criteria for state contributions to the local share of federal coastal zone storm risk management projects. So this is going to get started this year. We talked about this at the chief administrative officers. It's going to be critical that the people around this table have representation on this study committee. We're ground zero for this issue, and to be able to continue to stress the importance of this issue and state participation in this non-federal share is going to be critically important. Mr. Roberts, I know for you in Norfolk and your city council, this has been a huge issue. Did you have any comments you wanted to share on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If it's okay, yeah, I will address it. Yeah, I've got 3 of my council members here and then a 4th one, Mr. Page, seated in the gallery. You've summarized it correctly. It would be very challenging for any locality pursuing a coastal storm risk management or similar project to meet the non-federal share. So it's critical that we're successful in this JLARC study in identifying a methodology that brings the state to the table financially, and we concur whatever form there's a consensus around. We need to have localities from Hampton Roads at the table on this study in formulating what the final recommendations are.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, as a follow-up to this, if the commission would agree, perhaps a action by this commission, staff could prepare correspondence for the chair and vice chair to consider. But it would probably be good for us to get on record early and often on this. But correspondence to our state leadership asking that our Hampton Roads region have active participation and representation in this process might be an important first step.
Okay, all right, so that's a recommendation that we approve sending a letter to J-Lark, asking for our local representation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so is there a motion and a second?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, so further, any further discussion? So there being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we will work with your leadership to move that letter up to Richmond. The next item I'd like to talk about is economic development site preparation. Again, an item in our regional legislative agenda. I think as you're all aware, Virginia, we are just behind our competition in preparing sites for shovel-ready sites for economic development. We made some advancements using Go Virginia money here at the PDC, working with your local economic development agencies, but there's still some significant need. We were disappointed. The proposed budget only includes $20 million statewide for economic development site preparation. And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I know for Mr. Price and the city of Chesapeake, site preparation is something that you've all been working on. I wonder if Chesapeake had anything to offer in that regard.
Mr. Price.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that's a very good point. If you think about some of the opportunities right now in the state between the CHIPS Act or reshoring of manufacturing, a lot of different things going on. The magnitude of land that you would need to make these sites work is in the hundreds, if not thousands of acres. So anything from a semiconductor plant or advanced manufacturing, a car plant, an EV battery plant. And so to acquire and get those sites ready, each of those individual mega sites around the Commonwealth, they're hundreds of millions of dollars. And so you lose more than $20 million of inflation every single year on just one of those projects, let alone multiple projects competing across the state. And so we have one in the city of Chesapeake that would be in excess of $500 million. It would be tens of thousands of jobs, billions of dollars of investment, but it's not going to happen without significant participation from the state in terms of site readiness, just like our competing states do. So we compete against, it's always North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, and occasionally Canada that we're competing against for these facilities. So, we appreciate the extra money, but it's nowhere near far enough statewide. In addition, for that Virginia Business Ready Sites program, historically it's been 100 acres or more of qualifying sites. They've reduced that to 25 acres. And so in addition to not enough money to even keep up with inflation, the universe of sites that can now qualify across the state goes from the dozens into the thousands. And so the strategy is probably to spread money, a lot of money around statewide, but the net effect will be will likely continue to fall further behind other states in this competition for major manufacturing.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is going to continue to be a significant issue for us. One item I'll bring to everyone's attention, the Virginia Chamber of Commerce, every gubernatorial election year, goes through a process called Blueprint Virginia. It is a statewide strategic plan for business development, economic development, and growth. And they will be working on that plan between now and November so that the next governor, this information will be appointed to or presented to with the recommendations in December. We will get to host one of their public input meetings here in Hampton Roads, and I will get information out to you on that session, but that might be an opportunity for us to really drive home the importance of ramping up this level of investment in economic development site preparation. The next item I want to talk about is housing. Again, a lot of housing bills, hard to follow all of them, but there were a couple key ones that I just wanted to highlight. We did see coming out of the General Assembly $15 million for an income-based housing down payment fund for first-time home buyers, not to exceed $10,000 per customer. There is language in the budget for a $20 million rental assistance program for Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads based on income. So we'll dig into that. Certainly, as we continue to talk about our housing assessment, these are opportunities that we can look at. And there is money proposed for an expansion of a housing opportunity tax credit program. So some things, more details to come, but some positive movement in the housing space. Transportation, the big bill everybody in Hampton Roads is watching was introduced by Delegate Jackie Glass. It's House Bill 2466. This bill would not have created a tax increase, but would have created a structure to create a fund called the Hampton Roads Highway Corridor Improvement Program Fund and a Highway Coastal Resilience Fund. While it didn't identify a tax or a funding source, the money that would eventually made its way into the fund, 2/3 of it would have went to improve primary and secondary roads like 460 and 58, like Independence Boulevard, like Hampton Boulevard, et cetera. And then another third would have supported transportation infrastructure that is at risk to flooding. And back to Hampton Boulevard, Shore Drive, you know where some of these roadways are. It passed pretty well through the General Assembly. The Senate approved the bill unanimously. The House, 56-39 margin. It went on to the governor. The governor did veto the bill. It went back to the House during veto session. The vote was 54 in favor, 39 against, but that's 10 votes short from what was required to override the governor's veto. So the bill did not advance this year. So one of the items we'll need to think about for next year is this a continual conversation that we want to have as a region. Likewise, in transit, Senator Rouse and Delegate Askew introduced a bill that was really important to Hampton Roads Transit. Currently, HRT's light rail system, which is the only light rail system in the Commonwealth of Virginia, currently it's grouped in the funding program statewide with conventional bus service, right? So this bill, HB 1982, would have taken the HRT light rail system and would have placed the Tide in the same funding stream as WMATA in Northern Virginia, and would have made it a more competitive funding stream for HRT to be able to compete for funding for light rail. Unfortunately, it was left on the table in House Appropriations and also in Senate Transportation Committee. The inside baseball on this is Northern Virginia was worried that we would split up the pie of funding too much. They're getting access to now. And as you know, there's some very large counties in Northern Virginia. So when the counties in Northern Virginia came out against it, the Virginia Association of Counties came out against the bill, and that was a lot of influence. So again, working with HRT, we'll see. I think this is one that we're going to have to, and I know for Norfolk, this is going to be an important issue that we're really going to have to stay on top of. Emergency sheltering. Emergency sheltering is continuing to be an evolving issue. As you all know, if there would ever be an event and we would need to have people move to safety, even if it's not a full evacuation, understanding and being prepared for where people can get to be in a safe place is going to be a critically important issue. And obviously, if something would happen here on the coast, this impacts not only Hampton Roads, it impacts the entire Commonwealth, really, as people attempt to move westward. Your Chief Administrative Officer Committee sent correspondence on March 13th, and a copy of that correspondence is included in your agenda package for today's meeting, to the high-level leadership for the Commonwealth of Virginia, asking for the state's assistance to develop a statewide strategy to address shelter capacity, staffing, and the utilization of state shelters. As you know, to have some of these large shelters, it's really beyond the capability of a local government. You need to be able to get access to some of these state facilities. I'm very pleased Delegate Green from York County has really adopted this as a really important issue and is helping us with trying to get this advanced through our partners at the Commonwealth. So more to come on this, but did want to make you aware of this request. Mr. Sadler was with us as we presented this to the CAOs, and we're pleased that hopefully we can get some good conversation and action on this issue. So here we are. It's April. It's not too early. We got to start talking about next session. Along with that, just FYI, the Hampton Roads Caucus, their next meeting is going to be on June the 3rd. The location appears to be, it's going to be in Chesapeake. It's going to be at the Tidewater Community College campus in Chesapeake. We don't have a final time yet. I'll have that information soon. At the June 3rd meeting, we're going to talk about what advanced, what didn't, related to our regional legislative agenda. Here at the PDC, we're going to get started in July. July of every year is when we introduce to you, okay, what are your ideas? Here's some thoughts for our regional legislative items. And then in the months of August and September, we go to all of your committees. These are a lot of your staff, and we ask them for what their ideas are on a lot of these issues, and we collect that info and bring it back to you in October for your consideration. We'd like for you to approve your legislative agenda in October. We have November as a fallback if needed. Mr. Chairman, what I'd like to ask the commission to begin to think about is as you go back home and start talking to your colleagues and peers, what are those items that if we could include them on our regional legislative agenda would be helpful to you back home? You know, what are those high-level regional issues that ought to be on our agenda, whether it's flooding or whether it's another issue pertaining to housing? What are those items that you would like us advocating for? You know, a lot of things have been on our agenda that have advanced. The widening of I-64, the whole way to Richmond, the addition of 2 passenger rail trains to the Hampton Roads region, increased use of flock cameras on public safety, K-12 public education funding increase, funding increases for flood mitigation. We could go on and on and on. So including the right items on our agenda and being able to speak to them in a unified voice is really important. So Mr. Chairman, that concludes my quick briefing today. We have some of our legislative liaisons in the audience. They're a huge help in this process. We just look forward to working with you as we get close to this summer and move into fall.
All right, thank you, Mr. Crum. Certainly a lot to consider given carryover items that we may have to address next year, and then plus any new items that this body wants to bring to the table for discussion. So we have a couple months to give that some consideration and be prepared for, I guess, July, we'll start the conversation on those. So thank you for that report. Next item I have on the agenda is, most of you know there's been some parking lot improvements going on. I think we're going to get an update from Jill Sunderland on the parking lot project.
Yes, and as Jill comes to the podium, just really quickly, we're going to do a ribbon cutting and a group photo out in the parking lot afterwards. So please hang in there and join us out there. But before Jill gets started, I have to tell you, what she's about to talk about is not in her work program. This was one of those projects we went to. Jill came to us and said, I'd like to try to do this. And Greg and I said, are you sure? And if you know Jill, she said, yeah, I think we can pull this off. So I just can't thank her enough for the extra effort that she's put in to really help us with an expense the PDC was going to have. I think we've reimagined what parking can look like here at the regional building, Jill.
That's
So
right.
thank you for everything.
Well, thank you, Bob, and good afternoon, everyone. I am excited to talk to you about the Regional Building Parking Lot Improvement Project. And I have shared a little bit about this project with you all before, but just for a little reminder, this is what our parking lot used to look like back in August. Pretty traditional asphalt covered parking lot, and it was in a state of needing repair. We were going to have to repave it, you know, it required this maintenance, all of this stuff. And we basically said, instead of just repaving it, why don't we reimagine it and completely redo the parking lot? And what better place to redo something and really have a demonstration project than here at the regional building? I mean, as you all know, we have almost 300 meetings a year here in the building, and it makes it an ideal location to really show how parking lots can be more innovative. And you can do so much more than just park. Here's some features that we included outside at our parking lot. Instead of just repaving with asphalt, we decided to go with concrete. There were several reasons for doing that, one of which is the lifespan. We get about 40-year lifespan from concrete compared to about 12 or 15 years from asphalt. Not to mention the temperature reduction. It's so much cooler when you're walking on a concrete surface compared to asphalt. But instead of just doing traditional concrete out there, we also included a precast porous concrete panel system. We have almost 500 5-foot by 4-foot by 6-inch porous concrete panels out there. This is so interesting because when the rain hits these panels, instead of running off and running downstream, the rainwater actually soaks through these panels and infiltrates into the ground. But one thing you might know about porous concrete or permeable pavement or whatever you might like to call it, there are often maintenance concerns with these types of practices. One of the reasons is that you have to keep the pores free of material because if they get clogged, then it doesn't function anymore. So in order to sort of be preemptive about that, we installed a technology from Ohio State University, these sediment pretreatment strips, which you can see up here at the top right. And it was basically just a stamp, and it creates a groove in the concrete so that when the stormwater runoff is flowing from the traditional concrete into our porous concrete, that sediment is trapped in the grooves of the concrete, and we can actually collect it with a vacuum leaf blower. Another feature we included outside is a bioretention stormwater BMP practice. As you may know, this runoff from the boardroom goes straight into the first island out here, and it is treated in that bioretention. So none of that is currently leaving the site of the regional building. We're capturing all of that. We also included native plants throughout the perimeter of the parking lot and then inside the bioretention as well. And you might have had a chance to look at our new poster out here in the lobby that identifies all the beautiful blooms that we're expecting throughout the remainder of the year. We also included recycled materials. If you notice, our wheel stops out there are made from recycled tires, and that prevents people from driving right on into our bioretention basin. So why did we include all these practices? Because we're really getting at regional objectives with this project. We're treating stormwater runoff, we're preventing downstream flooding, we're reducing temperatures, we're providing pollinator habitat, we're reducing carbon emissions because, in fact, right now today, they're installing 4 level 2 EV charging stations in the parking lot today. We're going to reduce carbon emissions with those stations. We also included recycled materials, as I just described. So by the numbers, out here, our drainage area is less than an acre. It's about 0.8 acres when you include the roof of the boardroom here and also all the impervious area outside in the parking lot. We have a storage capacity of over 30,000 gallons. If we were to install 55-gallon rain barrels out there, we would have over 600 of them. If we had gone ahead and done a more traditional stormwater practice, a wet pond practice, we would have lost approximately 20% of our parking spaces if we had gone that route. And we included all of these environmental practices, and we didn't lose any parking spots, and in fact, we gained a spot. We are very thankful to the Department of Environmental Quality, who provided a significant grant in order for us to make this project happen. And the total cost of these stormwater practices was about $770,000. But we're not done. As I mentioned, we're installing those electric vehicle charging stations today, 4 of those. We're also working with the College and Career Academy, the Pruden College and Career Academy in Suffolk, and they are designing for us a customized 757 bike rack. Their welding students have been involved with that, and we're really excited to partner with them. And we're also working with Hambury Landscape Architects, who are helping us to design educational signage that's going to be installed at the main entrance of our building sometime later this year. But what's the takeaway here? Why redo a parking lot like this? There's a lot of benefits to it. But one point that I really just wanted to make is that we know that Hampton Roads, our region, has approximately 64,000 acres of other impervious area. This includes things besides roadways. Think sidewalks, driveways, runways, things like that. And we need over $10 billion in flood mitigation projects. So the question is, how can we take better advantage of sites like parking lots in our municipalities? So while we have so many partners to thank for this project, and we're very fortunate to have a few of them here with us today. And I would like to first invite Mara Christian from the Department of Environmental Quality to head up. They're our funders, and we're so thankful for the grant for this project. We also have Don Rismeyer and Chris Labadie from AMT Engineering. They're responsible for the design of our parking lot project. And we also have Matt Long from Ferguson, who helped us acquire these Stormcrete panels that are outside. And we are so thankful. Please join me in a round of applause to thank our partners. All right. Thank you all very much. You're welcome to have a seat. And I have one more thing that I would like to show you all. We have, thanks to Matt, a time-lapse video of the construction of the parking lot project. And Marque, I hope you can set that up for me. I would be happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
So thank you for the presentation, Jill. Does anybody have any questions for her, Jill?
All right.
All right, great job. Thank you. We look
thank
forward to seeing the finished product in just a few
Oh,
minutes.
did you have one?
I just had one question. Jill, where this idea, was this in existence anywhere else, or has this been used anywhere else in our region?
Which in particular? Are you talking about the Stormcrete
No, I'm
porous
talking about the
concrete.
overall, the type of parking lot design.
There have been really innovative projects in parking lots across the region for sure. This is the first application of those stormcrete panels here in Hampton Roads. They've been used in a handful of places across the Commonwealth. Richmond uses them in kind of green alleyways and green sidewalks. We're the first one to do that. We're the first one to sort of combine with these sediment pretreatment strips. We're the third in the country to have that. It's on the Ohio State campus. It's in New York City and here in our parking lot. So there's definitely some innovative aspects of it.
Thanks.
Dr.
Yes,
Ross Hammond.
Yes, I'm really impressed with this. We need you to be on the advocacy for Richmond when we go to General Assembly to be able to get things like this done.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So I just put in a plug. The next heavy rainstorm, we'll buy pizza. Come on over to the regional building because it is amazing. I mean, you know, I'm a planner. I'm not a technical guy, right? But it pours and there is water all over the concrete. And when it flows to those porous panels, it disappears. It's just incredibly amazing to watch how it works. Credit to our designers, the infiltration gallery. You know, Jill and I would look at it. Is it big enough? It works beautifully. We've had some gushers, right, Jill?
Oh, yeah.
I know it sounds funny to come out in the rain. We got plenty of umbrellas, but come take a look at it. It is something to see. And really first off, I want to thank all of you. When Jill first brought this idea to all of you and we were sort of that go, no go, thank you for your support. But what we have now is a living, breathing classroom of how this can be done. And that's what we were looking to do. So I want to thank the commission for your support on this.
Great job on that. So thank you. Okay, items 10 through 13 are informational items. I'm gonna ask Mr. Crum to present those.
Yes, just very quickly, you have your schedule of your upcoming meetings, you have your committee summaries and items of correspondence. Mr. Chairman, I would ask, please consider joining us out in the parking lot. Matt has already made his way to the roof of the building. We'd like to get the commission members and our guests all lined up out, and we'd love to get some photos. And we're actually gonna have the chair cut a ribbon for us to officially open our parking lot. So hope you can all join us outside momentarily.
All right, thank you. Is there any old business? All right, is there any new business? Okay, with that, we are adjourned. So please, if your schedule permits, join us in the parking lot.